Welcome, everyone, to It Tastes Different Game Reviews. Tonight, we're going to talk about Weird West. Weird West is an action role-playing game developed by Wolf Eye Studios and published by Devolver Digital. Basically, the game is released for Windows, PlayStation 4, Xbox One on March 31st, 2022. It is a top-down action RPG game that's kind of set in the West, if you will. I mean, it's like a weird version of the West, hence Weird West, but it's basically heroes in like the frontier that encounter some supernatural type stuff. So the game is full of just some weird supernatural tropes. And you have different stories. I shouldn't say you're a bounty hunter. The first story, you're a bounty hunter, but then the story changes. So it basically runs you through 5 different stories, if you will, that center around a central theme. I'll put it that way without trying to give away too much. And the world is interactive and your choices matter. What you do in one town can have an effect in another town. You can completely wipe out towns and the towns will be overrun by creatures, and then eventually they'll take time and people will resettle and repopulate the areas. And it's a twin stick shooter, which is not what I was expecting. I was expecting a tactical based shooter game, or a tactical based Western style game. And it's not really, it's more of a twin stick shooter. A lot of people have been comparing it to Fallout 1. I don't see it as a Fallout-ish 1 game. I mean, it's kind of weird like that. But the story doesn't evolve and hasn't have as much of the oddball tropes as I would say that Fallout had. So I would just basically compare this to a kind of a weird supernatural Western frontier game where you play through 5 different stories. So let's kind of get the gist of what everybody else's initial thoughts are on this. Let's start with Shane. Shane, what were your initial thoughts on Weird West?
The controls are weird and I don't like them. That was my biggest takeaway firing it up. The storyline is really funny. The beginning chapter, and then it just everything progresses when you hit each chapter on it. I love characters. The characters are really cool in it. I mean, they're weird, which hence the words. But the control scheme is really hard for me because with a twin stick shooter, it's more of a spray game. You're spraying bullets. This is more, it's with your pistol or your shotgun. Your shotgun has a blast radius on it, so it's a little helpful. But when you're running your pistol, it's a single shot. You're aiming. It's hard for me, at least, to get that control down for a rifle or a pistol. When I got the shotgun going, that was a hell of a lot easier. There's one area where you go when you're rescuing somebody, and if you screw up like I did, you get a lot of people coming at you at once. That shotgun was a godsend. You can stealth through it, which is really fun. I did go back and redo it so I could stealth it because I got my butt handed to me in that area. And the stealth works really well overall. I mean, it's very simple. You hide. You sneak around areas. You come up behind somebody and you choke them out and hide the body. Pretty much any other stealth game. So that aspect of the combat and the controls works fine, but the stick shooter portion really bugged me. I like the characters. The crap you find, just going from point to point in a mission. You can run into ambushes and things like that. It's pretty cool overall, but I really had a problem with the controls. That was my biggest issue overall. Just the controls drove me nuts. It wasn't extremely difficult far as the difficulty goes, but it was more difficult just because of the controls for me. So, but that's me whining. What about you, Nick? What do you think?
Yeah, I really like this game. I didn't have any problems with the controls. For me personally, everything controlled fine, and I was able to point and shoot. But yeah, I overall like this game. I like the different. It's like a bunch of short stories set in the weird West, right? Because there are some weird and supernatural things that happen, and some of the short stories are better than others. I think you might find one that you really like compared to the other ones that are kind of okay. But they're really cool because they all do tie together, and like when you finish one, you can create a posse in this game, so you can pick up NPCs to go with you to fight. And once you've completed a short story, you can then go back if you want to and pick up the NPC that you had before, that you played in the first portion, and then you can pick them up as a posse member. And what's cool about that too is anything that they had on them when you finish that, they'll still have. So you can like take off all the armor and things like that. Like you get armor that you can equip and amulets and different guns, and the guns have levels and various things like that, like greens and purples and stuff like that, and yellows. So it's really cool. It's a really cool game. It's a lot of, you can go out and explore the world or just follow the storyline. There's hidden treasure troves. There's, like Shane said, you get sometimes when you're traveling from place to place, you'll get stopped on the road. There might be a merchant or there might be enemies. Sometimes you have the option to run. Sometimes you don't. You can go and buy a horse, or you can go steal a horse, right? But stolen horses will leave once you get to your destination, but that allows you to get across the map a lot quicker. So overall, I found the game to be really fun, and I found the story to be pretty interesting. Not everything, the only thing that kind of sucks is not everything is voice acted. There is a narrator. The narrator is voice acted, but everything else is, you have to read it, which I wish that everybody was voice acted, because they do have characters that are returning characters. So, and characters that you'll get to know as you play the game, because the map's not huge, so you get to learn where all the towns are, who the sheriffs and NPCs are of the town, right? Because they talk about them, they mention them, you talk to them. Like there's a lot of interaction with these NPCs over the various short stories between all the different characters, and so you get to know who lives where, right? What sheriff is at what town, or what NPCs live in what town or whatever. And so it would have been nice to put a voice to that. But, and like Patrick said, there's also a lot of decision making in this game, and in deciding what you do, just different outcomes happen, right? So, when you go through there, you got to make sure that whatever decision you make, is the decision you want to make, right? There's no wrong decision. It's just the one that you want to make, because they will determine kind of how the story flows and certain characters that you'll meet and various things like that. So, but initially, overall, I think this is a really fun game. So that's what I'm going to say at first here. Pat, what about you, Ben?
Yep. Yeah, it feels like a game that we played before, and that's why I think a lot of people mention that the Fallout-y aspect of it, because there's the random encounters and stuff like that, and choices matter. But I don't know, I would prefer a Fallout game over this one, in my opinion. The controls I would agree with Shane. The controls were my biggest gripe in the game, is because it wants to be a twin stick. It's a twin stick shooter, but it wants to be more than that. And what I mean by that is when combat breaks out, it is very hectic and chaotic. And, there's certain times where you're not expecting a fight to break out, and a fight breaks out, and you and your posse are grouped up. And I don't know how many times I blasted the crap out of my own posse with my shotgun, and I'm like, well, that guy's about dead. And so weird things like that happen. And if you happen to not have food on you and all you have is bandages, the bandages will heal you and your party as you use them. But if you're full health, you can't use a bandage to heal down your party. So there's just weird quirks and things like that kind of got to me a little bit, that I need to make sure to find food or something in the environment, or have some in my inventory to heal up my party. And the inventory is the worst inventory management system out there. It's so limited, and there's so much crap in the world to pick up, and you're like, I need to make money, so I'm going to pick up all this crap. And eventually money comes to where you're like, I don't care about this garbage anymore. I'm just picking up the items that are useful to me and moving on and stuff like that. So overall, the game was fun, but I will admit combat was, in my opinion, one of the weakest components of the game, because it was just too hectic, especially like once you start unlocking abilities, cool. They become more useful, right? You get abilities to where you can like hammer down on the pistol where it fires off like really quick. You get rifle abilities, you get shotgun abilities, you get bow and arrow abilities, you get other time slowdown abilities depending on what skill points that you unlock. And skill points aren't based off of any level that you get. You have to find these items in the world to unlock skills and abilities, and it's a little bit stingy with those, I would say. They're not as easily found and to make a progress in a good way. So really what you're going to do is you're going to want to pick a weapon and you're going to want to kind of stick with it. Maybe 2 weapons and no more, because you can't get enough upgrade points to fill out an entire, all 4 weapon lines. And plus you have 4 other quick abilities that don't need to be tied to a weapon. And these things use a bar. I can't remember what the bar is called, but it's an ability based bar, and it's like basically 4 to 6 uses out of each ability. And it drains this bar, and then you have a potion that you drink to refill it back up, and stuff like that. So I mean, combat to me was the weakest link in the game, but the story was pretty interesting and had some kind of cool little twists and turns. And it leaves you when the first, because unless you actually know or read, you don't know that it's a comprised story, comprised of 5 short stories. You're just like, was that the end of the game? That was a really short game, and the next thing you know, you wake up and you're like, what is going on? This is so weird, and hence, like I said, supernatural thing going on, and it gets really good, and you just, you're kind of like, I couldn't interact with that, and you don't realize it, and that's what it says, is sometimes you sit there and spin your wheels on something, and you're like, I can't figure this out, because it wasn't meant for you to figure out with that character, so just be mindful of stuff like that. It's a multi-story playthrough, and that's how it has to be played. So in that aspect, it's a really good game, and it's really, for the price of it, I mean, it's a decently long game, and it's got a lot to it. I mean, I think we only paid $40 for the thing or something, so it's a really good game.
It was on Game Pass for us.
I gotcha. So if you don't have Game Pass and you have one of the other systems, it's still only $40. And so, I mean, it's not bad price for a $40 game for what you get here. They got this cel-shaded art style, which I'm not the biggest fan of because it makes it look a little old and dated, but a lot of people like that. For me, it's a decently good game.
Yeah, I thought the art style really worked well with the whole theme of the West. I mean, the color palette they used, I thought was fantastic for the art style. I mean, it's for what it's trying to do. It didn't really have to be a artistic masterpiece, graphic horror. And what it was trying to do with the the Dirty West kind of motif, it worked well, I thought. And I agree with you definitely on the weapon choices. I stuck with a pistol and a shotgun. The rifle I had no purpose with. I mean, because I couldn't hit crap anyway. And I really, really I stealth so much in that because I'm so bad at damn shooting on it.
Yeah, if you're not using a shotgun, it's pretty much you need to direct your target and make sure you lock onto your target or else you're going to miss. Like I ran mostly stealth. When I say mostly stealth is I stealthed and used the rifle most of the time because you can get an ability to make rifle shots. You have to use I can't remember what it's called, but it's like ability power or whatever. And you can make a shot silent. So you can shoot somebody from the bush. Yeah. And if you have your other points into percentage of damage, you can basically one-shot them eventually with the rifle from most distances, like a super long rifle, and I could one-shot people from across the room that were unaware. So, I mean, I did that one a lot.
Yeah, I didn't do a lot of stealth. I mean, I did sometimes, but for me, compared to you guys, I really didn't have a lot of problems with aiming and shooting. I used all my weapons with, every pistol, shotgun, rifle, bow. It didn't matter what I had, even the melee weapons, because you get melee weapons. I would just use them all to beat them down. It's kind of funny because I hardly ever used any abilities. I would just shoot them down until they died most of the time. Because half the time I forget that I even had them, right? Not that I didn't have the stuff that you're talking about. Like you pick up these little, I don't even know what they call them. Like they look like rib cages or spinal cords is what they look like or something like that. Yeah, and I had enough of those to unlock all my abilities. it was just like I would forget that I even had them down there. The only one that I would use a lot of the time was the they have a slow-mo one that kind of slows things down. You do like this Matrix thing or Max Payne jump, bullet time, and I would use that sometimes to kind of just get my bearings on what needs to happen. But what's cool too is you can pick things up like explodey barrels or barrels full of oil or poison barrels or whatever, and you can throw them, and if you throw them, all the oil or the poison spills everywhere. Or you can set them down and set it up as like a trap, so when the enemy comes you shoot and it explodes or whatever. Throw out the oil, then throw a lantern on it, to make it burn. So it's got a lot of cool stuff like that. They thought about a lot of those things too. And if you stealth someone and leave them out, the people that you stealth and kill or take out, they become dizzy and faint or whatever. If you are there long enough, they will wake back up. So you need to either kill them afterwards, beat them with a stick or something, because otherwise, if you're going to be there for a while, you might want to take them out.
Right. And let's not forget the game has reputation in there. You can be good or you can be bad, and they have different amulets that can affect different things. Like when you're super bad, you can have a extra boost of damage, or your barter or something's up. If you're super good, you can do things like that. So there's a light and dark side of this, if you will. Good and bad, and your reputation. So depending on what you do, you can raise or lower that. So there's a lot of different little nuances in here, hence the RPG portion of it. But like I said, combat, in my opinion, is probably one of the weakest links in it. And just because the companions and stuff are cool, but when fighting does break out, and I don't mean like a one-on-one or you shoot one guy, another guy comes running, that stuff's easy enough, right? If you have a full posse of 3 people, you and 2 NPCs, that guy's going to die pretty quick. But you stir the nest and you get like half the map, it's hectic. Like they're all on you. I'm shooting my own guys, trying to shoot them. And next thing I know, my team's half dead and we barely walked in the front door. And I'm like, I can't heal these guys anymore. They took way more damage than I did, And a lot of times your NPC companions will have more health than you. Like at some point, I think I had a companion that had 327 health, and another one that had 225, and I'm sitting here with like 120. So they had a lot more health than me, so they can take bullet sponges. But I was always fully healed, and they were like half health, and I'm like, this just looks weird. I want them to heal up. Come on, heal up. And you can give them med packs, and they won't do anything with them. So there's a couple, like I said, quirks and nuances with that. But overall, it's a fun game. The twin stick shooting does kind of take a little bit of getting used to, especially depending on the level of aim assist that you have, because you can turn an aim assist up or down. And it'll help that temporary like snap to them when you're shooting with them. But like I said, mostly I just try to stealth through every mission, go into a mission, and either set the area up to where I can hit an oil barrel and shoot a lamp and catch them all on fire, or snipe them all from a distance and they're all laying dead, and then their friends come in and try to check on what's going on and why that guy died. I'm just taking them all out one by one, because I use the ability points a lot, because as Nick said, like one of those abilities with the pistol is like reminds me of the Red Dead Redemption one, right, where you could just go into slow motion and pick a bunch of targets, and he's like pow 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 pow, he just takes them all out. And then same thing with like the rifle. You can basically take this basically single shot rifle and turn it into almost an assault rifle, because it'll unload the clip and just be like tat, 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 So the abilities work kind of cool, and they add a little bit of a difference and a nuance to the game. But finding things to level up your weapon skills or your action abilities are different than to level up your passive skills. Like there's golden cards to level up passive, and passives are things like more health, better bartering skills, lockpicking skills, this and that. And then your action skills are what attached to actual direct actions, such as slow down time or make your gun shoot silently. Instead of putting a silencer on there, cast a magic spell on it so it casts magic bullet, So it is a pretty good game, and there's nuances. And as Nick said, the melee, I didn't do the melee a whole lot unless I was just running low on ammunition.
Forced to do it is the only time I used it. Or
if I thought it was really early in the game and it was going to take a long time, like Nick said, I would knock them out and then throw them in the river or hit them with the melee weapon, because you can throw them in the river and they will drown. You're like, all right, he's dead. I'm going to worry about him getting back up. So
yeah, they did it just like Metal Gear did. You use them as bait. You could just toss bodies God knows where. I threw one in a pile of oil, and guy went over to check on him and bursted them all into flames. I the game, if they're going to do this kind of control scheme, I think the game should have been cooperative. Because most twin sticks you can co-op, and a game like this should really have been co-op.
Well, you have a posse, right? So why not? Why didn't they make a co-op? You have
exactly.
two other NPCs with you.
Exactly. I think they should have went with more of a turn-based. Everything else was fine with the game, but I think combat should have went turn-based. I mean, it's a top-down already. I think a turn-based would have been great. You can add terrain issues where, your high-low gives you, you get the high ground, you can chop off a leg, so.
It'd be too much like Fallout right there when you have bloody messes and exploding bodies and crap. But yeah, I mean, I honestly was expecting that. I thought this was going to be a turn-based strategy, squad-based combat thing, but it was action-y, twin-stick shootery, and twin-stick shooting game, and that's what they decided to go with. And I mean, it works. I mean, for the most part, it's trending very well, and the game plays pretty well. I relatively had a bug-free experience, to be honest with you. I mean, I will admit that the camera angles get to me, but that's with every game like this. It's hard to adjust for every angle, but there's points where I'm like trying to get in the angle and look at something, and I'm like, is that a lever over there? And I'm trying to spin my camera around to look, and I'm like, I can't get up there. And you're just trying to get into corners of places, and you're like, I'm supposed to be there, I'm pretty sure. But there's secrets and things like that, You just got to look out for things, because there's walls that you can explode with dynamite. There's piles of rubble you can explode to get loot out of. There's all kinds of stuff. Like I said, there's lock picking, there's sneaking, there's bartering. There's everything that you would think of in any type of game like this is built into here. For me, combat was its weakest link.
Yeah, my biggest problem is I got locked in the bank at the very beginning of the game, because I was like, ooh, what's in this? Oh, the bank's got a skylight. I'll go in there. And then I couldn't get out for like 20 minutes because I couldn't get that camera angle to see where I could jump back out of the skylight. So that was fun. And then I went a killing spree and tried to take out the town, but I got killed. So
there's that whole do whatever you want, whenever you want. He was about to wipe out the entire town.
Yeah, and damn, the law stopped me. I fought the law, and the law won.
All right, Nick, you played this the most out of us. Any last parting words before we say goodnight, partner?
No, I think this game is definitely worth a play, and definitely worth a buy. I think for $40 you'll get a lot out of it, because the short stories can, there's 5, and each one, if you power through it, each one's going to take about 2 or 3 hours to get through. So if you think about that times 5, that's quite a bit of hours in there. If you power through it. Now, if you take your time, it's going to be a lot more. But, the only thing is, like Patrick was talking about, the perks, which is the golden cards, those do transfer over to each character that you play. Now, the abilities don't, but the perks do. So that's kind of a cool idea when you're finding those cards to spend, that those will carry over to the next character that you're going to play. But yeah, ultimately, I think it's a great game. I think it's a really fun game that people should check out and try out. I think it's a really good game. If you have Game Pass for PC or for Xbox, you can play it on both. And if you want to play it on both systems, it is cross-save. So you can load it up on your PC and play it, then switch over your Xbox and continue where you left off, or vice versa. So that's really nice. But yeah, overall, I think it's definitely worth your time.
Awesome. Like I said, I'm pretty sure Nick's played a lot further than the rest of us have on this one. So, Shane, any last words from you, man?
Yeehaw.
All right. Well, I think we're about to let on little doggies and get out of here. So, but make sure, as always, leave us a comment. Did you try this game? What do you think? What do you think about this game? Is it up your alley, or is it not? I mean, sometimes these games are just not for everyone. Twin stick shooters, for the most part, aren't up my alley, but I could get past it, this one. So let us know what you think. And don't forget, as always, make sure you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And we hope you enjoyed this episode and hope to catch you in the next one. See y'all little doggies later.
See ya.